Hi, my name is Farshid and I'm originally from Iran. I have been living here in US for a little over 2 years now. I am a convert from Islam and I could not practice my faith and had to hide it from my family and friends. After leading a double life for years, I left Iran and went to Malaysia in 2010. I applied for refugee status with UNHCR, which stands for United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. Malaysian government has not signed the refugee convention, so refugees like me are not legally allowed to work. The government doesn't care how you survive and provides no help. UNHCR offers no help either. They just process your case. And that process took 12 years. After 3 interviews spread over 2 years, they accepted me as a refugee in 2012. And during those 2 years, I could only wait. You could not enter the premise without having an appointment, which they alone could arrange. It took UNHCR 3 years to consider me for resettlement. In 2015, the resettlement organization told me that they had decided to send me to the US. It took the resettlement organization 1 more year to start the process. I did the medical checkup and went for Homeland Security interview in 2016. And I thought I would be resettled in US before Christmas 2016. And then came the US presidential elections. Many people came to me and said, Farshid, if Donald Trump becomes president, it will become difficult for refugees like you. Are you worried about that? And I said, if Donald Trump becomes president, and it leads to one fewer baby getting aborted, I am happy with that. Well, he became president and he put a ban on people from 7 countries, including Iran. The initial order was in my favor. It had a paragraph saying religious minorities are considered exceptions. But a court in America blocked that order and said, if you include this paragraph, it means you are an Islamophobe. Imagine the insanity of not allowing religious minorities to flee from the place they are not safe, their own Muslim countries, because they are from those countries. Well, the second order came without that paragraph. It became all inclusive, and that meant my case was put on hold for 5 more years. Those are just 3 words, 5 more years. But the reality was really, really worse than that. Imagine having to live 5 more years without being able to legally work. Imagine having to wait for 5 more years of uncertainty. Imagine having to stay home during the COVID lockdown for almost 2 years and losing the only remaining sources of my income. 5 more years of calling and emailing the resettlement organization, and if you get lucky and they pick up the phone, getting the standard response of you need to wait, we will call you. Donald Trump had promised that he would appoint conservative justices for the Supreme Court who would uphold the Constitution. He became president and kept that promise. 3 conservative justices were appointed and they overturned the demonic Roe versus Wade. You see, presidential candidates make some promises, but they do not keep them after they are elected. But here was a president who kept his word. And you do not need me to tell you how rare it is to have a politician like that. And what he did was not easy. Those on the other side knew that if those justices Donald Trump had appointed were confirmed, they were not going to like what the Supreme Court would do. Do you remember what Brett Kavanaugh had to go through? Do you remember how they threw every possible charge and label at him? Can you imagine what his wife and children went through during that whole ordeal? Yet all the 3 were confirmed and Roe versus Wade was overturned. That, and that alone, was worth the 5 year wait. Because the precious life of the most vulnerable human being is far, far more important than my ability to legally work. to have so much freedom I have here now in US. And believe me, if you take me back to 2016 and ask me the same question, I would give you the same answer. If Donald Trump becomes president and it leads to one fewer baby getting aborted, I'm happy with that. During those 12 years in Malaysia, I would get on a train in the morning and see all these people going to work, and in the evening see them on their way home. And I would think to myself, will I ever have that? Now I have been living in US for a little more than 2 years. I'm so thankful that God has brought me here. I did not experience any culture shock. It seems I have always lived here. Living in America is such a huge blessing. Having a legal job is such a huge blessing. Waiting for the bus knowing I'm heading to work is such a great blessing. Having a job which does not feel like a job is such a huge blessing. Being able to rent an apartment and having it to myself and not having to worry about the day I may have to leave is such a huge blessing. Being able to pay for electricity, internet, and other utilities is a huge blessing. Being able to buy groceries, clothes, and the things I love without having to worry about how much money is left at home, well, refugees could not have a bank account, is also a huge blessing. And having the freedom to practice what I believe and speak about my faith is such a huge blessing. There are many more things I'm thankful for, and God has shown me so much grace and love. And that brings me to why I decided to record this video. America is a great country. There are many things that make America great. There are many people all over the world who wish they could live here. I had always heard people say that America is a country where you can live a good, comfortable life if you work hard. I had always heard that America is a country where you can enjoy safety and freedom. I remember Arnold Schwarzenegger quoting someone who had said, "You know, someone once wrote that those who say freedom is nothing but a dream, they are right. It is the American dream." But the America I see today is a different country. There are people in power who are undermining every single thing that makes America great and unique. And they do not even pause. They are rushing on the path to destroy all that America has ever stood for. They consistently and tirelessly trying to destroy every pillar this country has stood on and every value this country has stood for. I think there are three major areas where there is a great need for change, a radical and urgent change. The first one is economy. During those 12 years in Malaysia and living without a legal job, I have learned the hard lesson of how to be frugal. But here I see people who are struggling. There are families who cannot afford their basic needs. They live paycheck to paycheck. Every time they shop for groceries, they realize prices are constantly going up. And they really hope that the current situation will change so that they can sustain themselves. A couple appeared online and asked a question from Kamala Harris, who was present there. The couple said, "We really would like to know what your plan is to help lower the cost of living." This was Kamala's answer, and I'm quoting, "Yeah, first of all, thank you both for being here. And yours is a story I hear around the country as I travel, and in terms of both rightly having the right to have aspirations and dreams and ambitions for your family, and working hard and finding that the American dream is for this generation so many recently far more elusive than it's been. And we need to deal with that, and there are a number of ways. One is bringing down the cost of everyday necessities, including groceries. If you are a school teacher or a university professor, this response will definitely remind you of students who have absolutely nothing to say or write. So they make very long sentences with a lot of synonyms, followed by paraphrasing those sentences multiple times so they can increase the word count. Will you let a student like that teach a class? If your response is no, and I hope that no is your response, will you then allow someone like that to become your country's president? I think a good test for economy is comparing your income and expenses ratio during Trump's presidency with what is right now. If you compare that and see that the former was better, do you think 4 more years of the latter will bring about a change? Second issue, illegal immigrants. I remember when I was in Malaysia waiting to be resettled in the US, my American friends were telling me, Farshid, you have been waiting for more than a decade to be resettled legally in US, and there are hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants crossing the border every day. To see all those illegal immigrants who enter US soil, who are given crazy financial packages and using this country's resources, and yet steal from or murder American citizens is unjustifiable. America should allow people to come in who appreciate all the blessings the US has to offer and live as law-abiding citizens to show their appreciation. This is not a question about compassion and mercy. This is about common sense. Will you invite someone to your house who ends up stealing your property and putting your family members at risk? And finally, the right to life. In US Declaration of Independence, we see this statement. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. For some reason, we have come to a point in time when people protest, resort to violence, angrily demand that they must be given the right to murder the most vulnerable human beings. They want to ignore those unalienable rights those helpless babies have. People love to have unlimited freedom with zero consequences. They want to drive their car as fast as possible and yet do not want to have any accidents. They want to have unlimited sexual encounters and want to destroy what is the natural outcome of sexual intercourse. They bring up issues like rape and incest, not because they are concerned about the victims, but rather to portray those who fight for the life of the unborn as being inhumane and uncaring. To murder the baby conceived through rape or incest is to punish those babies for the horrible crime of others. Killing the baby in the womb does not do away with the trauma the mothers have experienced. We have many examples of mothers like that who chose life for their babies, who are now happy they kept those babies. Now, I know that Donald Trump won't order a national ban on abortion. I know that his view differs much from those who are pro-life. But I also know that Kamala wants all restrictions gone at any point during the pregnancy. In her, we have a candidate who promises to remove every obstacle for those who want to bring precious lives of those babies to an end. In here, we have someone who would have used golden stones to pave the road toward Molech. Instead of parents self-sacrificially raising the gifts of life they have been given, they choose to sacrifice those innocent lives because they may impede their success or harm their career. There are 3 groups of Americans I would like to address. Number 1, the young people. You are living in a country where millions of people around the world dream about. You have a great privilege of knowing what God has blessed Americans with every single day. There are billions of people around the world who dream about living here. and they do not have any of the freedoms you enjoy here. They live in conditions you have not even heard about, let alone experienced. Do not take these freedoms for granted. They won't automatically continue to be. They must be appreciated, protected, and even fought for. Do not easily believe those who speak against racism and then divide people along those very lines. Do not easily believe those who say they are champions for women and then refuse to define what a woman is. Use your vote and do it wisely. The second group are my brothers and sisters in Christ. I know and understand why some of you do not want to vote for Trump. For many of you, it is an issue of conscience. I understand that. What I do not understand is those of you who want to vote for Kamala. Her policies, or better called lack of policies, do not paint a brighter future. Her contempt for the life of the unborn is catastrophic. You will see what you could have seen only in horror movies. Life is sacred at every level. From the moment of conception, we have humans created in God's image. Each little baby has immense intrinsic value. We should not let the government decide whether the baby in the womb is valuable or not. That cannot be a decision of any human being. We do not ascribe value to babies. Our Creator does. I do not have the power to sway votes. But I would like to remind you that we will all stand before the judgment seat of the Christ one day and be held accountable for all our choices. Can you imagine saying to Christ on that day, I voted for Kamala despite knowing that she and her party would try everything they can to make abortion accessible for any reason at any point during pregnancy for every woman at every state in the US, so that millions of innocent babies will continue to be killed. It's very ironic that the other side compared Donald Trump to Hitler. Hitler dehumanized the Jews, so killing them would not raise an eyebrow. The Democrats dehumanized the baby in the womb, so killing them would not raise an eyebrow. Can you imagine saying to Christ, I voted for Kamala despite knowing that she and her party would continue to allow drag queens to go to children's libraries, allow biologically male students to enter girls' bathrooms, and make all the girls uncomfortable and unsafe? Can you imagine saying to Christ, I voted for Kamala despite knowing that she and her party would continue to allow biological males to compete in women's sports, easily breaking records and winning competitions, and thereby destroying the women's sports? Remember the words of our Lord. This is my body, which is broken for you. We are facing a group of people who say, this is my body, and I should decide what to do with it, even if an innocent life is sacrificed. And finally, the third group, those of you who do not want to vote or who have never voted. I really, really, really wish I could vote. I have to wait 3 more years to be able to do that. But you all have the right to vote. You all have the freedom to vote. Exercise your right. The other side hopes that fewer people will vote because they know that the majority of people will vote against them. So they try their best to dissuade you from taking part in this election. Do not trust the polls. Do you remember what happened in 2016? All polls said Hillary would win, but they all were wrong. Don't think that one vote won't change anything. It does. Every single vote counts. Please vote, and please do that wisely. Let us all do what we can to protect and preserve everything that makes this land great and unique. May God bless you. May God bless President Donald Trump. And may God bless the United States of America.